Hey up, it's Steve from that old Yorkshire Geek, and it's time for a Sunday news roundup. I usually do these live, but I'm not this week. I'm recording this, so it'll appear on Rumble and the other one, Odyssey, immediately instead of the next day. So anyway, so I found some news stories that the headlines piqued my interest. I've not read the articles, so that'll be fun, won't it? So let's just get on with it. Right, first up, Doctor Who. There we go. Russell T Davies's promises great news for Doctor Who. I always do that, don't I? Doctor Who's future, because they're always saying Doctor Who's future in articles, and they keep saying Doctor Who's future. Spoonerisms with my shining wit. The Jasper Carrot joke. Right, Russell T Davies, obviously can't be bothered typing his name out, will be with Doctor Who for years. Suggesting that he's got a grand plan for the show's new era in the global streaming landscape. Russell T Davies, this is from Screen Rant, by the way. I think of three stories from Screen Rant because they are omnipresent. They just have people just typing it. Unless it's all AI, there could be AI articles for all I know. I don't know. But anyway, links are in the description. And don't forget, like and subscribe, share the videos, drop a comment, hit the notification bell. If you're subscribed already, I'm also on Rumble and Odyssey, as I said earlier, and Spotify and Amazon Music Podcasts and Google Podcasts. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Links are in the description for those, and as are the links for my two books that are on Amazon Kindle and Amazon paperback on Amazon. There we go, Mercury Rapids. That's my book about UFOs, and it's a light-hearted action adventure. It's quite thick, but it's not boring. There's probably something happens on every page, to be honest. And Silent Predator, that's a horror novella. That's a lot thinner. Look at the difference. That's a lot thinner. As you can see from the eyes, it's about big cats in North Yorkshire, going around eating people, kind of inspired by the likes of like James Herbert and Guy N. Smith and authors like that. Anyway, right, Russell T Davies, see they've typed his name out there, has promised his commit to Doctor Who. Do you mean promised to commit to Doctor Who? Whatever. For the foreseeable future. Tell it AI. Which is great news for the show. The man who relaunched Doctor Who back in 2005 is at the helm for the 60th anniversary and beyond, as the show enters a new era in the global streaming landscape. No longer solely produced by the BBC, Doctor Who will now be a co-production with the corporation, because that's what BBC stands for, British Broadcasting Corporation, the Sony-owned Bad Wolf Studios and the Walt Disney Corporation. I thought it was Walt Disney Company. Oh, never mind. Anyway, it's a historic co-production deal that will require a figure like RTD overseeing this bold new era of Doctor Who. So it's promising to hear on the Table Manners podcast that Doctor Who will be RTD's sole focus as he oversees Ncuti Gatwa's tenure as the Doctor, as well as the rumoured spin-offs. When Davies was first announced... Oh, crikey. What happened then? I've just eaten. In the words of Jack O'Neill in Stargate SG-1, I've just finished off a lovely brunch. I said that the other day, didn't I, in the video, but I'm saying it again now because it's true. When Davies was first announced as returning, there was a sense that it was a temporary arrangement to celebrate the 60th anniversary. However, his recent assertion that he's no longer taking on other projects is confirmation that the lifelong Doctor Who fan is firmly committed to shaping the Doctor's 6th decade on screens. And there's Russell T Davies and whoever she's called, I can't remember, and that's Ncuti Gatwa. Millie something, I can't remember. Despite some teething problems, the RTD era of Doctor Who was defined by an incredibly strong production team behind the scenes. It were pretty good, to be honest. It were great stuff. Anyway, aside from RTD, there was also executive producers Phil Collinson and Julie Gardner, all of whom are returning for the next era of the show. Stephen Moffat's Doctor Who era saw more of a revolving door approach to the production team, with figures like Piers Wenger and Caroline Skinner leaving the show during Moffat's tenure. After the ups and downs of the Moffat era, the Chris Chibnall era again had a solid production team for its duration, even in the face of the massive challenge of the COVID-19 pandemic. But that didn't help, did it? Because it were crap. Oh, there's the Table Manners podcast on Instagram. There you go. So you can click that and have a listen if you follow the link in the description. RTD's return, see, they've got fed up of typing his name already. And his commitment is a promising sign that he has a huge sweeping vision for the show as a global franchise. Davis has already spoken about his envy of Alex Kurtzman's Star Trek franchise. Why the hell would you be envious of that, apart from the massive amounts of money he's making? And it's clear that the approach to spin-offs will likely owe more to the Kurtzman approach, oh God, than that of Kevin Feige at Marvel Studios. God, I hope not. Although it has got better in the last couple of years, Kurtzman Trek has got better. We've had Strange New Worlds and Prodigy and Star Trek Picard Season 3, which I've enjoyed all three of those. Anyway, Russell T Davies's Doctor Who spin-offs were a key part of his original run, culminating in David Tennant's Season 4 finale, where the 10th Doctor teamed up with the casts of Torchwood and the Sarah Jane Adventures. It's likely that Russell T Davies has a similar 4-year plan for the show and its new spin-offs, but with increases in budget allowing for more ambitious crossover stories. It's still possible for Russell T Davies to stay with Doctor Who while steering the ship as a creative force. In the years since he first left Doctor Who, Davies has mentored young writers and is serving as executive producer on several new dramas in the UK. This implies that Russell T Davies could oversee new Doctor Who writers, moulding the new era of showrunners. It might be the case that Davies has been brought on in an Alex Kurtzman-style role. We stopped mentioning him. Show-running Ncuti Gatwa's era while putting everything in position for Doctor Who's expansion within the global streaming market. I mean, the Alex Kurtzman era only got better when he stepped back and started doing his own things, which failed, and then Star Trek got better because of his absence. Since Davies first left, the position of Doctor Who showrunner has been passed into the hands of the most obvious and skilled candidates for the role. However, both Stephen Moffat and Chris Chibnall were foregone conclusions for the role, were they? Given their position as UK screenwriters and their fandom, the time will surely come when a generation of screenwriters brought up on the post-2005 era of Doctor Who is in a position to take the show in exciting new directions, and Russell T Davies is the perfect figure to oversee this transition. I mean, yes, Stephen Moffat were a shoo-in, wanted to succeed Russell T Davies, but Chris Chibnall, I don't know. I mean, he was most famous for being the spotty, scrawny kid complaining about Doctor Who on some talk show, whether he was in the audience and they went round the audience and says, "Oh, we're just people running round corridors," and of course he went on to become, a screenwriter of his own. He did stuff like that David Tennant series, which I forgot what it's called. It's a detective one. I've not watched it, but I've heard it's good. Anyway, so there we go. So Russell T Davies is staying at Doctor Who for the foreseeable future, and we're staying with Doctor Who for the next story. Stephen Moffat is set to return to Doctor Who. This is from the Daily Mail. He's set to return to Doctor Who as showrunner Russell T Davies asks for new episodes. There we go. Stephen Moffat is reportedly set to return to Doctor Who to write episodes for the new series. Good. The screenwriter, 67, previously served as showrunner for the sci-fi series from 2010 to 2017 and was also a writer on the show. Russell T Davies has taken over as showrunner once again and has recruited Stephen to write episodes for the 2024 series. Brunch. Sorry. Starring Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor. A source told The Mirror Russell's on a mission to make Doctor Who great again. Have they got caps? What would it be? MDWGA. Doesn't have the same ring to it, does it? Event television not to be missed. That's what they used to call water cooler television. But we don't really have water coolers in the UK, so, that's a bit of a misnomer, isn't it? Anyway. Which is what it was for many years during his and Stephen's tenure in charge of the show. Yes, that was the halcyon years of Doctor Who. Basically David Tennant and Matt Smith, the David Tennant and Matt Smith era, in my opinion. He has nothing but respect for what Stephen achieved with the show and was a fan of his vision as showrunner. He approached him about returning in just a writing capacity because he knows Doctor Who inside out and has a brilliant imagination for adventures in space and time. And there's Stephen Moffat. And there's Ncuti Gatwa. And here's more of the article. He took some convincing, but the chance to contribute to a show he has loved since childhood and see it blossom in a new era with a new Doctor was just too much to resist. Stephen was responsible for introducing Doctor Who fans to Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor and Peter Capaldi as the 12th, who I wasn't really keen on. Started off well, but then partway through his tenure, it turned to poo, in my opinion. He served as writer for some of the show's most memorable episodes, including The Girl in the Fireplace, which I wasn't entirely fond of that one, The Empty Child, which were okay, and Blink, which is the one that everybody talks about. Blink is the Hush of Doctor Who, in it. Hush being the episode of Buffy that everybody seems to talk about. Which introduced the Weeping Angels. Well, they're spelled with a bloody H. Weeping. The Weeping Angels. Don't have a H in it, kids. Weeping. Will Wheaton. Weeping Angels among the programme's most memorable villains. Stephen previously said he hopes Doctor Who goes on forever like other English heroes such as Sherlock Holmes and Robin Hood. It's him, it's Robin Hood. Sorry, that's the Disney one. I love that film. Anyway, he said, I just want it to go on. I want it to not stop. I want it to... And I know Russell's going to make use of its infinite adaptability to always be the number one predator in the environment. That's what I want. I want it to go on forever. I believe it can. Like the stories of Robin Hood and King Arthur and Sherlock Holmes. Some things always go on. Mail Online has contacted the BBC for comment. And obviously, they have not responded. Otherwise, they would have said... Ncuti Gatwa previously admitted he was deeply honoured and beyond excited to be playing the Doctor, but admitted that he was also a little bit scared to join the franchise. I thought we'd done then. See, they bloody hide the articles, don't they? He told the BBC, this role and show means so much to so many around the world, including myself, and each one of my incredibly talented predecessors has handled that unique responsibility and privilege with the utmost care. I will endeavour my utmost, he likes that word, oh no, that's utmost and utmost, to do the same. He added, the entire team have been so welcoming and truly give their hearts to the show, and so as much as it's daunting, I'm aware I'm joining a really impressive, supportive family. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Then we go to comments, and here we go. Unassuming Man says, everyone knows by now that Doctor Who is just another gravy train for a select bunch of liberal lovies. If it had to hold its own in the commercial environment instead of being massively supported by licence money, it would not be recommissioned. Well, it's kind of in the commercial environment now, isn't it? Because it's partly owned now by Sony and Disney, so then we'll see what happens. Moffat did some of the best Doctor Who, says Steve, no relation. Heaven Sent was the high watermark of the modern series. I have no idea, can't even remember that one. And De Grey says, even he can't save it from terminal wokeness. Well, we'll see, won't we? We'll see what happens. Oh, that's the trailer, isn't it? Nail-biting trailer for new Doctor Who series with the little furry creatures that probably turn out to be baddies. Right, so there we go. So that's that. Some Doctor Who news. Doctor Hugh news. I bet that's his real name. You know, the name of the Doctor is Hugh. I am Hugh. We are Hugh. And she's there. As soon as I start, Princess the cat popping up at the window. Unbelievable. Right, go away. Star Trek next. Picard drops an F-bomb. Star Trek's cursing is going too far. And I agree. This is on Screen Rant again. Jean-Luc Picard drops an F-bomb in Star Trek Picard Season 3, raising the question of whether enlightened Starfleet officers should use curse words, or as it says in Star Trek 4, colourful metaphors. Warning, spoilers for Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 4, No-Win Scenario. Right. Admiral Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart, drops an F-bomb in Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 4, apparently an ad-lib. Reigniting the debate of whether the harshest four-letter curse words in Star Trek is going too far. The USS Titan A found itself in dire straits. Sorry, that was me trying to do a bit of Mark Knopfler. Sorry, I'm giddy today and I don't know why. It must be because the sun's out and the snow's melted. It's spring. The USS Titan here found itself in dire straits, trapped in the Rhyton Nebula's gravity well, until it wasn't. All aboard believed death would come in a few hours before the Titan's heroes devised a means of escape. The crew fearfully congregated in a holodeck recreation of 10 Forward. Not the real 10 Forward, the fake one in Los Angeles, because they already had the set built. They were saving money. Where Picard tried to bond with his son, Jack Crusher, Ed Spaliers, and let loose the first F-bomb he's ever uttered in Star Trek. Picard told Jack about a similarly harrowing shuttlecraft dilemma with his namesake, Lieutenant Commander Jack R. Crusher, Doug Wirt. That's who played him in The Next Generation when we saw him. But it wouldn't have been, I don't think he was a lieutenant commander at that time. I think they were young officers, I think. When they were both serving on the USS Stargazer, Picard and his best friend pilfered a shuttlecraft for an unscheduled shore leave with delightful young women. But they lost their senses and ability to navigate back to the Stargazer, a micrometeoroid shower apparently. Using manual controls, Jack and Jean-Luc made it back to their ship, but Picard rued it took 10 effing grueling hours. Unnecessary. Later, Picard amusingly used Captain Liam Shaw's, Todd Stashwick, own words against him when he asked for the dipshit from Chicago. See how I said that, you see? I won't drop an F-bomb, but I'll say shit till the cows come home, to help the Titan escape from the Rhyton Nebula's gravity well. It was startling to hear an F-bomb escape Jean-Luc Picard's mouth, partly because it was so unexpected, but also because it feels beneath the dignified and eloquent Picard to resort to cursing. Picard's F-bomb felt unnecessary, I agree, even at that moment of trying to convey to Jack the hopelessness and misery of his shuttlecraft dilemma decades ago. Of course, Jean-Luc is only human, and yes, he is allowed to express himself with curse words, yet Star Trek, and Picard especially, espouse that humanity 400 years in the future is more enlightened than we are now. Part of Star Trek's appeal is the articulate way characters speak. Resorting to gutter language feels like a step backward, since Star Trek's characters are meant to be better than this. And it was established in Star Trek 4 that people in the 23rd century at the time didn't really use, colourful metaphors, as Spock put it, although we do hear the occasional, slight swear words. Kirk says bastard, doesn't he, in Star Trek 3, you Klingon bastard, you killed my son, and that. So, they do swear, but in Star Trek 4, they kind of suggest that they don't really. Double dumbass on you, and so forth. But anyway. But Kirk says, people don't listen to you in the 20th century unless you swear every other word. There you go. Colourful metaphor clip there for you to follow. Star Trek has toyed with its character swearing since the original series. The original series TV shows and movies would utilise the occasional hell and damn. Indeed, Damn It Jim was one of Dr. Leonard McCoy's, DeForest Kelly. The great DeForest Kelly. Love that bloke, it's great. Most common utterances. These were the limits of what network television and the Star Trek, the original series movies, PG ratings would allow. Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, even turned Spock's Leonard Nimoy's, great Leonard Nimoy's, attempts to use colourful metaphors into a delightful running gag. One damn minute, Admiral. But as Star Trek continued, the franchise got bolder in its occasional use of potty language. In the modern-day streaming era, the kid gloves are off and F-bombs drop on occasion. It started with Star Trek Discovery, didn't it? With Tilly saying, this is effing amazing. and or something like that, or something along those lines. And then Stamets, Paul Stamets, said it afterwards. I said it again, but we never had F-bombs up to that. Star Trek Enterprise, I think, did most of the TV bad language that we've seen. Lots of son of a bitch and stuff like that in Star Trek Enterprise. But anyway, Star Trek has always had curse words. And there's Data going, "Oh shit," as the Enterprise D's going down. Anyone who saw Star Trek Generations recalls the moment when an emotional Lieutenant Commander Data, Brent Spiner, uttered, "Oh shit," just as the Enterprise D was about to crash land on Veridian 3. Dorsh Voja. No, Dorsh, I can't remember what it is now. Veridian. There have been other times shit or goddamn have been uttered in Star Trek since then. However, Picard isn't the first F-bomb in the Star Trek franchise. That honour goes to Star Trek Discovery when Cadet Sylvia Tilly, Mary Wiseman and Lieutenant Paul Stamets, Anthony Rapp, dropped the previously forbidden F-word in Season 1. Since then, profanity has occasionally seeped into Star Trek, and particularly in Picard Season 1, sheer effing hubris, etc., which teeters trying to balance making its characters feel contemporary and relevant with the franchise's higher ideals. In an interview with Collider, Star Trek Picard Season 3 showrunner Terry Matalas expressed his own reservations about Picard's F-bomb. Matalan explained, "I was really torn because hearing that word come from your childhood hero, Captain Picard, it throws you, but wow, is it powerful." No, it won't. It won't. It will like just... It like wheezed it out. They should have gone with another take, in my opinion. Matalas defends his show's use of the F-bomb and other colourful metaphors and notes that criticisms will be valid for anyone who doesn't like it, or does like it. Ultimately, the acceptability of curse words in Star Trek is up to the creators and the ears of the audience. Powerful moment it may be, hearing Jean-Luc Picard drop an F-bomb in Star Trek Picard Season 3 feels like a defeat. But given the circumstances of why he said it, Picard feeling defeated in that instance was also the point. Yeah, but he didn't have to say it. He could have just said, I forgot what he said now. How many hours was it? 10. He could have said 10, 10 goddamn grueling hours or something like that. He didn't have to drop an F-bomb. Or 10 grueling bloody hours, he should have said, because he's British, isn't he? Although he's supposed to be French. But they established that he was raised in Britain, in England. So, in Picard Season 2. And they moved back to France, didn't they? That's why he's got a British accent. Although he does say, in Season 1, I can't remember which episode number it is, but in the episode The Last Outpost, where they think the Ferengi are taking energy away from the Enterprise, and they can't escape. Turns out it's the planet below that's doing it. The Takon Empire outpost. He says mad in that, so that's French for shit, isn't it? So he's even done it himself in the Next Generation, but in a foreign language, so that means it's okay. But yes, I think it's going too far. Too many F-bombs in Star Trek recently. One is too many, in my opinion. And I'm not a prude, but, you don't need big boy swearing in Star Trek. Right, let's move on. What else we got? Jon Favreau has his own process for dealing with deep-cut Star Wars lore. This is from Slash Film. Not italic capital I film, as I thought it was. Anyway, let's have a read. The deeply complex lore of Star Wars continues to expand with the live-action television series The Mandalorian and the upcoming... by the way, I'm recording. Oh, yes, I am. And the upcoming shows Star Wars Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew and Star Wars Acolyte, which some people think is not even going to get made, although they've allegedly began filming. But some people are saying it will not finish. But we'll see. I think it will. Which will take place in the final dark days of the High Republic era. The animated world of Star Wars is also continuing to fill in gaps and expand the universe with the Bad Batch, Visions and Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures. That's set to premiere on Star Wars Day, May the 4th. Although Star Wars Day is supposed to be May the 25th, isn't it? That's the official Star Wars Day. Anyway. Novels exploring the High Republic are set to tie in with Star Wars Acolyte. And three new. Sorry, I lost my place then. And 3 new Star Wars video games have been announced, including Star Wars Jedi Survivor, the sequel to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which I've still not finished. I've got lost in the game. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. That will continue the adventures of Cal Kestis. When Disney took over Lucasfilm, Star Wars canon split into Star Wars Legends, the new name for the expanded universe, and the Disney output became the new official canon. Legends informs the largely airtight canon of Star Wars, but it's not necessarily part of the official timeline. The Lucasfilm Story Group, led by Pablo Hidalgo, I thought he'd retired, has been gifted or burdened with the title of the Keepers of Canon, allowing creatives like Jon Favreau to stay aligned with Star Wars history without knowing every tiny detail. Favreau has dealt with multiple projects that feature a fairly massive backlog of lore and history, from Iron Man and the MCU to Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book. Star Wars operates on a different level, however. Favreau's job is to see how his ideas and passion can match up with the lore that experts protect, and how new Star Wars can remain true to the singular vision of George Lucas. Right. Oh, pardon me. Let me have a drink. A drink of my coffee. Because this is a Star Wars article, so we're going to have a drinking game in a minute. I bet we do. They'll mention in a galaxy far, far away, or something like that. It's coming. Delving into the lore of Star Wars can be incredibly daunting, even for fans who try their best to keep up with the mountain of material that's constantly being released. In theory, you could consume Star Wars content on a loop and still never catch up to everything happening within the official canon alone. Favreau is well aware of this and was careful not to dedicate an inordinate amount of time to something that he wasn't already deeply passionate about. So basically just making it up there. Ignoring, the other stuff and just doing what he wants. Firstly, it's not just any IP, intellectual property, that I will engage with. It has to be something that I already connect with and feel passion for, and that I could dedicate a big chunk of my life to doing something with and contribute to what is already there, he told Film Stories on a recent trip to the UK for the Season 3 premiere of The Mandalorian. To wrap his head around the lore, Favreau's second step is to make a list from memory of all the things he personally remembers to find out what's special and what stood out to him personally. Memory has a way of prioritising things that are most relevant, he said, so the things that I remember are going to be more important in some regards than the things I research, because they've surfaced themselves, as in memories. So he's just doing things, he's just writing things that he remembers then, and, sod everything else. The next step in the process leads into intense research, something that's a must for Star Wars. It's his he does first drafts and then just hands them in, but in my opinion. But not necessarily for Iron Man, when Marvel was starting the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Marvel benefited from Stan Lee's guidance that was then carried out by a lot of different people who spun the stories in their own ways. With Star Wars, Favreau had to work within George Lucas's original vision. Lucas, of course, and there's the Mandalorian, and there's R5D4 in the background. Jangle, jangle. Lucas, of course, didn't work in a vacuum, and many of the creatives that collaborated with him helped Favreau stay true to the lore of Star Wars without being beholden to it. Even George Lucas isn't beholden to his own canon. He forgets it, doesn't he? Director and artist Dave Filoni, long-time Lucasfilm designer Doug Chiang, and ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, Chief Creative Officer John Knoll, who co-created Adobe Photoshop, interestingly enough, were key people to bounce ideas off of. That's an American term, isn't it? Off of. just said off. Favreau even recognised how important the fandom is to ensuring the lore is consistent. Thanks to the internet and other experts and people who are concentrating, by the way, on different aspects of what's important within Star Wars, we can get a sense of it and crowdsource it and bounce it off one another, asking if it feels right, said Favreau. He's lying. That becomes the main barometer to decide whether Favreau is on the right path or not. Does it feel like Star Wars? That feeling comes mainly from a sense of adventure instead of adhering to a strict timeline of events. The canon allows Star Wars to remain a unique entertainment property, but Favreau doesn't feel the need to obsess over it. There was definitely a freedom George had and a playfulness when he told the stories that you don't want to lose. You don't want to feel bound by tradition, so it's striking that balance of tone. There we go. So he's basically saying he just makes it up then and hopes that it'll match the canon. And he's going from memory, which is why he included, the Babu Frick aliens. I forgot what they call them in the latest season of The Mandalorian, because we saw them last, didn't we, in The Rise of Skywalker. God, I hate them things. They're cute and lovely. No, they're crap. Right. I'll save that one for last, actually, so I'm going to move that one over there. Right, here we go. Oh, I hate those things. Back to Screen Rant. The bold reason Empire Strikes Back wasn't just called Star Wars 2. Well, it was originally, wasn't it? George Lucas and producer Gary Kurtz had a blunt but understandable reason for calling the second Star Wars movie The Empire Strikes Back, because it was about the Empire striking back. The Empire Strikes Back wasn't called Star Wars 2 for a blunt but effective reason. The Empire Strikes Back was the long-awaited follow-up to Star Wars, the 1977 film that launched the entire franchise. When Star Wars later retitled A New Hope, which I think wasn't until like 1981, I think, something like that, was released, the producers at 20th Century Fox weren't sure what to make of it, but quickly changed their tune when the movie made over $420 million at the box office by the time The Empire Strikes Back was set to debut. In today's money, that equals over $2 billion, making the original Star Wars one of the most successful movies of all time. Given the sheer influence of the Star Wars title, one would think that creator George Lucas, Star Wars' producers, and the distributors of 20th Century Fox, now called 20th Century Studios, I missed that Fox thing, anyway, would have been raring to use the power of familiarity to market the sequel. Star Wars 2, while perhaps not as eye-catching a title as The Empire Strikes Back, would have let audiences know immediately what kind of movie they were in for. And yet from the beginning, the Star Wars sequel was always going to be titled The Empire Strikes Back, forever proving the belief the production team had in their movie. An old article from the New York Times dated December 2nd, 1979, included an impressive quote from Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back producer Gary Kurtz. By the way, he's the reason why Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back are such good films, and Return of the Jedi, wasn't quite as well received, although I do like it, because he reined in George Lucas a lot. Anyway, we didn't call it Star Wars 2 because films with 2 in the title usually aren't as good as the first. This is better. They were ultimately proven right, of course, though the original Star Wars changed cinema forever in terms of special effects, reignited the general public's love of science fiction, and created an entirely new storytelling world. The movie's narrative is effective but simplistic, easing audiences into foreign concepts, planets, and lore. What's that? Oh, that's a behind the scenes. The Empire Strikes Back, however, could build on the foundation laid by Star Wars, continuing to push the boundaries of cinema while also getting right to the heart of the story and the underlying emotional and darkness of Luke Skywalker's journey. Its twists and turns were undeniably effective, especially the revelation, spoilers coming up, that Darth Vader was Luke's father. No, I am your father. No! That's not true. That's impossible. So, robot chicken going through my head now. And Leia is your sister. That's highly improbable. And the Force? That's just a bunch of microorganisms called midichlorians. Anyway, which remains one of the most compelling and iconic storytelling beats in the history of cinema. Many movie sequels, often simply titled Part 2, rely on the safety of what came before to please their audience. The Empire Strikes Back pushed itself to be bigger, bolder, and better. Though The Empire Strikes Back has always maintained its original title, creator George Lucas has been known to tinker with the names of his movies, both before and after their release. The original Star Wars movie was later retitled A New Hope, Episode 4, A New Hope. as Star Wars slowly became the overarching title for the entirety of the franchise, not just one film. Additionally, the final installment of the original Star Wars trilogy, Return of the Jedi, was originally marketed as Revenge of the Jedi. It was originally called Return of the Jedi. The marketing people at Fox said, Return doesn't, Revenge sounds more exciting, so they changed it to Revenge. Released loads of posters and T-shirts and stuff. And then at the last minute, George Lucas says, Jedis don't take revenge. I'm changing it back to Return. That was changed right before its release, as Lucas reasoned that Jedi don't seek revenge. I've just said that. Other Star Wars movies have also undergone minor title changes since their release. The Star Wars prequel movies have their episode numbers in the official titles, though none of the other Skywalker saga films do. What are you talking about? Well, it depends how you... Yeah. Well, yeah, it's right, isn't it? Because it was marketed, wasn't it? The Phantom Menace were marketed as Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, wasn't it? So I suppose, yeah. And the others, weren't really. Although they were officially called that, Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. People just called it Return of the Jedi. But people still just called it The Phantom Menace, didn't they? And Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, whatever. Despite most of the Star Wars audience often referring to them as such, since Disney's takeover of Star Wars, other titles have been shuffled around as well. For example, the Star Wars Extended Universe became Star Wars Legends when the canon was instituted. Despite these minor alterations and more, the legacy of the original Star Wars movie and its sequel, The Empire Strikes Back, has never wavered, propelling the franchise to where it is today. I'm one of these people that actually like the original Star Wars more than The Empire Strikes Back. I do love The Empire Strikes Back, but I think it's let down, in my opinion, in the middle with Luke's training on Dagobah. I find that boring, to be honest. But that's just me. Right, so we'll move on. Right, what we got next? Got another Star Wars one there, but yeah, we'll stick with that. We'll stick with Star Wars. A disturbance in the Force. This is from Variety. Review, an amusing behind-the-scenes look at the notorious Star Wars Holiday Special. I love the Star Wars Holiday Special. It's hilarious. Maybe it really wasn't all that terrible, or maybe it was. Either way, the tone is more affectionate than disparaging in Jeremy Coons and Stephen Kozak's documentary. And there's Seth Green, the man behind Robot Chicken, or one of the men behind Robot Chicken, and also an actor. He saw him in Buffy. He played the werewolf guy. I forgot his bloody name now. In Buffy. And he was also in the X-Files, in an early episode of the X-Files. Actually, it was the second episode called Pilot, which actually wasn't a pilot. There are times when you look back at the pop culture... No, it wasn't. It was called something else, wasn't it? Anyway, never mind. There are times when you look back at pop culture phenomena and can't resist the urge to ask, can you believe this actually happened? Tackling a notorious fiasco in one of the galaxy's most popular franchises, Jeremy Coon and Steve Kozak's amusing and exhaustive documentary, A Disturbance in the Force, what's I doing my microphone? Unpacks 1978 Star Wars Holiday Special. You don't have to be an obsessive Star Wars fan to enjoy this behind-the-scenes look at how the special, which premiered November 17th, 1978 on CBS, and has never been rerun on any broadcast or cable outlet, came to exist. To be sure, the fans will appreciate it a lot more than casual viewers, but it's also an irresistible hoot for anyone with fond memories of star-studded 1970s musical variety TV specials, a specific type of highly popular general audience entertainment that, truth to tell, very often showcased more campy excess than anything in the Star Wars Holiday Special. It is hilarious. You see that? Yeah. For those too young or too discerning to recall such fare, Coon and Kozak do a first-rate job of placing the Star Wars special in context. With a generous array of clips representing everything from a Donnie and Marie segment featuring the Osmond duo as Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia, Chris Christopherson as Han Solo, and dancing stormtroopers singing a variation of the top 40 single Get Ready, to a Bob Hope All-Star Christmas Holiday Special sketch in which Hope played Darth Vader opposite the real Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill. he did a lot of stuff like that. He was in the Muppet Show as well, wasn't he? As one interviewee notes, oh, excuse me, there were astoundingly worse shows that aired at that time. Even though none of those shows had Wookiees communicating in unsubtitled grunts and snarls. At a time when such specials were commonplace, almost all of them aimed at viewers older than then newly minted Star Wars aficionados, the prospect of a 2-hour TV extravaganza with seasoned vets like Art Carney, B. Arthur and Harvey Korman interacting with Star Wars stars Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher and bunches of Wookiees may have seemed perfectly sane, maybe even surefire. Mark Hamill like plastered in loads of makeup, he looks weird, and Carrie Fisher looks drugged out of her mind, which she probably will. But things didn't work out as planned. Oh, and Harrison Ford just looked bored. Using an abundance of newly filmed talking heads interviews, excuse me, with the parties involved, and acres of archival footage, including participants who clearly didn't want to discuss the special, the documentary traces everything back to George Lucas's desire for something that would sustain the high visibility of his budding franchise between the release of Star Wars 1977 and the completion of The Empire Strikes Back. Yes, as hard as it might be to fathom decades later, there was some worry, and not just on Lucas's part, that the public might forget the first film before the sequel appeared. Another consideration, there were toys and other merchandise to promote before the Christmas 1978 gift-giving season. Unfortunately, after providing an outline for a plot involving how Chewbacca and his family might celebrate something called Life Day, Lucas more or less walked away from the project to begin pre-production on Empire Strikes Back. Even more unfortunately, as the documentary makes abundantly clear, the majority of the people left in charge, including writer Bruce Vilanch, costumer Bob Mackie and producers Ken and Mitzi Welch, had more experience producing traditional variety shows than protecting nascent sci-fi franchises, all of which explains why many viewers, especially those who tuned in expecting to see some sort of Star Wars sequel, responded with slack-jawed amazement to such highlights as a fantasy sequence where Chewbacca's aged dad, is he called Itchy or something? I can't remember his name now. Aged dad taking unseemly delight in watching a slinky singing and dancing Diane Carroll. It's cringy. It is. A cooking tips video with a 4-armed, heavily made up Harvey Korman in drag. Whip stir, whip stir, whip stir. God. And B. Arthur serving as barkeep of the Mos Eisley Cantina while fending off an amorous customer, Korman again, who drinks through the top of his head, and then singing a song. And ultimately singing a good night but not goodbye tune at closing time. A disturbance in the Force elicits full-throated guffaws as production personnel and innocent bystander Star Wars fans comment on what is widely considered, rightly or wrongly, as an unmitigated disaster. It's ace. The Star Wars special sucked so bad, the late Gilbert Gottfried claims. The Star Wars special sucks so bad. I can't do an impression of him. I was amazed that I wasn't in it. And while the filmmakers evidently were unable to interview George Lucas, who supposedly has prevented any television or home video release of the special since 1978, even though it's easily accessible on YouTube, they get a big laugh by representing Lucas's initial reaction to the show with a clip of a horrified George C. Scott responding to a porno featuring his errant daughter in the 1979 movie Hardcore, which I've not seen. On the other hand, Kuhn and Kozak are admiringly even-handed, as they allow for the fact that, hey, scads of folks really and truly liked Star Wars Holiday Special back in the day, and I like it now. And that even now there is a sizable group of people, not all of them revisionists, who admit, grudgingly or otherwise, that not only was it not all that bad, it has more than a few worthwhile elements, including the still impressive animated cartoon interlude that introduced bounty hunter Boba Fett long before his first appearance in The Empire Strikes Back. It's bloody awful. That cartoon. People say that's the best bit. It's terrible. I mean, the droids are all bendy and stuff. Oh, it does me head in. Anyway, this sequence has been excerpted for presentation on Disney Plus. Yeah, it has. And elsewhere, obviously with Lucas's blessing. I forgot what it's called now. Something to do with the Wookiee or something. Again, you don't have to be a Star Wars diehard to value the documentary for its tea spilling and gossip mongering. After the original director went wildly over budget early in production, Steve Binder, or Binder, I don't know how you pronounce it, a veteran of Elvis Presley specials, came in to right the ship, only to learn that the heavy-drinking Art Carney was difficult at best to work with after lunch, and that he had so little money to complete the climactic sequence that he and assistants had to run out and buy candles. Sorry, I've nearly said candies then. To buy candles in the hope that dim lighting would obscure the cutting of corners and the pinching of pennies. Well, you see that they have all the Wookiees at the end, and to save money on the Wookiee costumes, they just put them in long red robes, just have the heads on. When Carrie Fisher sings, so showing that she's got her mother's knack for singing, and father's. Speaking of penny pinching, you know that scene in which B. Arthur flirts with what appears to be a large rat? The rodent's head was recycled from a low-budget 1976 sci-fi melodrama, Bert I. Gordon's Food of the Gods, top film. No, really, then as now, the show must go on. There we go. So, look out, does it where you can see it, does it? Does it say? Read more about disturbance in the fort, South by Southwest. I don't know when it's coming out. 86 minutes, but it doesn't say what it's going to be on. Has anybody bought it? I suppose if it's at South by Southwest, they're probably wanting a studio or a streaming service to buy it. I don't think it'll be Disney. But anyway, we will see what happens. So looking forward to seeing that, because I like the Star Wars Holiday Special. It's a lot of fun. Don't take it seriously. It's a lot of fun. And it is cringy, proper cringy. It's best to watch it, with other people so you can laugh at it. But, if you're like me, you don't have many friends, you've got to watch it by yourself. Although I do have one friend, Simon, who we do watch stuff like that quite regularly and laugh wholeheartedly at things like that. We regularly have Buck Rogers sessions. We love watching Buck Rogers, old Gil Gerard. Anyway, I'm waffling. Right, Alien, 12 xenomorph facts that are from another planet, and that's from Alien 3. Which had the baffling, it said in the trailer, didn't it? The bitch is back. And you think, what they're talking about? There's no alien queen in it. Well, there is technically. She's got one growing inside her, hasn't she? But is that what they're talking about? Because the other alien's not a queen. This one, that's not a queen alien. So they're talking about Sigourney Weaver. Anyway, no monster struck fear into the hearts of moviegoers quite like the xenomorph, the titular creature in Ridley Scott's 1979 sci-fi masterpiece Alien. Do they have a proper name? Like the Predator got a proper name, which I can't remember. It's got a Y in it, hasn't it? Have the xenomorphs got an actual proper name? Answers on a postcard. To that old Yorkshire geek, that old TOYG Towers, Yorkshire Geekville, West Yorkshire. Where were we? Alien, as well as the sequels, prequels, spin-offs, video games, comic books and novels that followed, is a killer beyond compare in science fiction. And today stands as one of, by the way, all those Star Wars articles I just read, not once did they say in a galaxy far, far away, did they? I'm quite disappointed. Anyway, never mind. Is a killer beyond compare in science fiction, and today stands as one of the genre's most recognisable antagonists. And while it's fair to say that the franchise has been subject to a few ups and downs over the years, the spine-chilling power of the xenomorph itself has never been less than total. How much do you really know about Ellen Ripley's arch-nemesis? Or it should be arch-nemesis, though. Is there more to this horrific beast than what you've seen on screen? Well, yes. Fittingly, for a creature designed by a legendary surrealist, the history of the xenomorph is as strange as the monster is scary. From the earliest concepts... Oh, getting a numb bum. From the earliest concepts to those endless variants to a real-life insect that's a little too familiar for comfort, here are some of the most fascinating facts about the true star of the Alien saga, making a monster. And there it is. Oh, that's the bit where it's doing the locomotion. I always laugh at that bit. It's supposed to be dramatic just before it gets Veronica Cartwright's character. Tell me and names. As soon as I start doing these, just before it gets her, it does the locomotion. And it goes like that. Do the locomotion with me. Anyway, the Xenomorph, or is it a Xenomorph? Take your pick. Is an absolute triumph of design. While the alien of Alien doesn't appear much in the original movie, the few glimpses we're given tease the genius of H.R. Giger's unique aesthetic. Just look at it. The elegant, almost beautiful carapace. Carapace, sir? The mechanical... Sorry, I'm waffling again. The mechanical flourishes on the exoskeleton. The sheer horror of those pharyngeal jaws. The slime that covers it almost head to toe. Even the disturbing sexual imagery that the Xenomorph's appearance evokes. Clearly, the combined efforts of Giger, Scott, or is it Geiger? I don't know. I say Giger. Giger, Scott, and the Alien screenwriter Dan O'Bannon, with his bow tie, produced a monster that more than deserves its hallowed place in the cinematic canon. The earliest ideas for the Xenomorphs' look were remarkably less impressive, however. In a 2017 interview on the podcast WTF with Mark Maron, producer Walter Hill revealed that Robert Aldrich, one of the director's approach to Helm Alien, simply suggested shaving a trained orangutan. Later, artist Ron Cobb came up with a design for a spotty, hook-handed xenomorph that looked a little like a cross between a T-Rex and the prawns from District 9. I'm sure it looked good because Ron Cobb's an amazing artist. These ideas obviously aren't quite as terrifying as the final design, and we can all count our lucky stars that Scott and O'Bannon decided to hire H.R. Giger early during the film's production, unless, of course, you really wanted to see Sigourney Weaver blast a monkey into space. Orangutans are apes. I hate it when the people call apes monkeys. But curiously enough, the French call apes monkeys because singe means ape or monkey in French, apparently. So, there we go. So that's H.R. Giger working on a model of an alien. Right, Giger was already... How long does this go on for? Is it going on a long way? Because I'm getting a dry throat, it is, isn't it? Now, well, we'll plod on. We'll plod on. Giger was already a renowned painter by the time he was brought onto the Alien crew, but his contribution to the film turned him into a horror icon. Scott chose Giger for his project based on a single artwork in the designer's illustrated book Necronomicon. The painting, titled Necronom 4, will be immediately recognisable to sci-fi fans today. It is essentially a depiction of the Xenomorph. There are a few key differences, as Giger gradually tweaked the design in order to translate his art to the silver screen, but Necronom 4 is clearly the foundation for the monster we all love and fear. And they're not even showing a picture of it. Oh, is that it there? Hang on, let's see. Let me open link in new tab and see if that shows us it. Are you going to show us it? What's the point of doing a link if we're not going to show us a picture of it? You know, for me viewers. For me viewer. No, not even a picture of it, look. Unbelievable. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll go find the bugger ourselves. That's what we'll do. Necronom 4. There we go. We'll type that in. We've got images. There you go. That's it. Open image in new tab. There you go. Can you see that? There we go. That's the Necronom 4. Obviously, it's not exactly the same, but it's, it's very similar, isn't it? Don't know what's going on there. Because that's clearly not a tail, is it? Because it's not coming from the back. But, that's H.R. Giger for you, I suppose. Anyway. That wasn't the end of Giger's contribution to the creation of the Xenomorph, though, as he also helped build the creature's first life-size model. At some point, you may have heard the infamous rumour that Giger placed a real human skull in the Xenomorph's carapace. And the good, horrifying news is that this is apparently absolutely true. Giger confirmed as much in a 2009 Time Out interview, adding, "Don't ask me where I got it. Still, they're easy to get, aren't they? I mean, Poltergeist famously used real skeletons in that swimming pool scene, because human skeletons are cheaper than buying a plastic one." Unbelievable. Don't ask me where I got it. Still, we've got a pretty good idea about that too. In the commentary for 1985's Return of the Living Dead, Dan O'Bannon says that he was told Giger had sourced his skulls from India. He also claimed that Texas Chainsaw Massacre director Tobe Hooper once informed him that it was possible to purchase human remains as part of the country's so-called bone trade. Tobe Hooper, Poltergeist. There doesn't seem to be any concrete proof regarding these claims, of course, but it certainly adds something to the bizarre mythos surrounding the Xenomorph's conception. The man in the rubber suit, there he is. If Alien is an unsung hero, it's Bolaji Badejo. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. Probably am. The man in the Xenomorph suit was more than a mere mannequin on whom Giger's design could be transplanted. His unsettling, sinister, almost ethereal sense of movement gave the Xenomorph much of its grace, apart from the locomotion, see, and no doubt made an indelible contribution to both the creature's initial impact and its enduring legacy. Badejo himself came from more or less out of nowhere. Peter Ardrum, a casting agent on Alien, met Badejo, a 6'10" Nigerian artist, as they drank in a pub in Soho, London. I thought he was a waiter or something. I'm sure I read somewhere he was a waiter. He called up associate producer Ivor Powell and told him that he'd found exactly what they were looking for. Oh, pardon me. Scott agreed, and before long Badejo was taking mime classes and undergoing physical training to prepare for his first, and as it turned out, only on-screen role. Filming proved tough for Badejo. He had never been on a set before. He spent half the shoot covered in KY jelly, and it was near impossible to see or move in the Xenomorph suit. According to special effects supervisor Nick Alder, however, he never complained once. He did keep inside himself quite a bit, Alder later told CNN. Being on a film set must have been quite strange for him to have been the centre of attraction. It was a bit of a shock to him. After filming wrapped on Alien, Badejo returned to Nigeria, where he opened an art gallery. He died of sickle cell disease in 1992 at just 39 years old. Very sad. And there's Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley. You probably remember how Alien ends. Ellen Ripley, Sigourney Weaver, the last survivor of the USCSS Nostromo, escapes the ship's self-destruction aboard a small shuttle. She soon realises that the Xenomorph is on board the shuttle too, forcing her to climb into a spacesuit, flush it out using gas, and open the airlock door. Ripley shoots the Xenomorph with a grappling hook, sending it hurtling into the void of outer space before using the ship's engines to see it off once and for all. Why does it have engines? I don't know. It's an escape pod, isn't it? Well, they say it's a shuttle, isn't it? Yeah, it is, whatever. To see it off once and for all. Horror movie endings don't get much more satisfying. By the way, why do they just have one shuttle that takes less? You know, if it's acted as a lifeboat, never mind. Whoever designed the Nostromo obviously designed the Titanic. Anyway, originally Scott had a much different fate in mind for both Ripley and the Xenomorph. Although I'm sure I remember, is it in the novelisation where it says that they did have two shuttles, but one of them were damaged or inoperative. But anyway. Originally, Scott had a much different fate in mind for Ripley and the Xenomorph. During an interview with Entertainment Weekly via Esquire, the director revealed that the movie was supposed to end with the Xenomorph claiming Ripley as its final victim. "I thought that the alien should come in," he said, "and Ripley harpoons it and it makes no difference, so it slams through her mask and rips her head off. The Xenomorph would then operate the shuttle's controls, mimicking the voice of Captain Dallas, Tom Skerritt, as it signs off the Nostromo's last log." That'd have been shit. According to Scott, the first Fox executive arrived on set within 14 hours of learning about this intended ending and threatened to fire him on the spot. Scott relented, and Ripley's death was undone. Proof, if ever, if it were needed, that executive meddling isn't always such a bad thing. Yeah, that'd have been bloody awful. I mean, if they wanted it to win, they could have had it. I don't know. No, because it's no, they couldn't. Could they? I wouldn't say it could have impregnated with you know, an embryo, but that's the facehugger's job, isn't it? Not the xenomorph. But then again, they were making it up, weren't they? They were the first one, so they could have had it that the xenomorph itself could impregnate a host. So they could have done that, in my opinion. Have the film end like that. Before it dies, it could have. She could mortally wound it, and then it impregnates her, but she crawls into the life pod. The alien dies, and the acid melts through, and melts through the shuttle, and it falls away into space, leaving a big hole. So obviously, there's no air in the shuttle anymore, but she's safe, and the cat are safe in the cryo tube, and get picked up 57 years later. Anyway, whatever. Right. Here's a fun fact about xenomorphs. They're not actually called xenomorphs. Ooh, right. Might be answered that question I asked earlier on. Or at least that's not the name that was intended for them. In Alien, the creature is never explicitly named, with most characters referring to it only as it or an alien. Meanwhile, the franchise's DVD and Blu-ray release, dubbed Monster what the hell do you say that? Internecivus raptus, the Latin term for murderous thief, and a few comic books have used the term Lingophoda acheronsis, meaning foul tongue of Acheron. Acheron's LV-426. So where did the name Xenomorph come from? As it turns out, it all comes down to a simple misunderstanding. In Aliens, when Lieutenant Gorman briefs Ripley and the Colonial Marines, he tells them that there has been no contact with the colony on LV-426, Acheron, suggests that a xenomorph may have been involved. Rather than being a name for the species itself, the Greek word xenomorph literally means strange form, and Gorman is simply describing the alien as an alien. Doesn't xenomorph mean like outside form? Is that what I thought? Never mind. As an alien, albeit in a somewhat haughty manner. Fans ran with the moniker regardless, most likely mistaking Gorman's line as a specific styling of the franchise's main monster. No, they didn't. It's just a cool word, isn't it? That stuck. It seems to have stuck, though. Although nobody in any Alien movie has ever used the capital X xenomorph to refer to the creature, the word has since appeared on various items of merchandise, including the 2014 tie-in book Alien: The Weyland-Yutani Report, in which the species is called Xenomorph XX121, and in the credits of 2017's Alien Covenant, which is crap. Right, Cameron and the Queen. There's the Queen alien. Although the warriors in James Cameron's 1986 sequel Aliens are nearly indistinguishable from the original xenomorph, that took off the smooth thing, carapace, the movie did introduce a new addition to the creature's mythology, the Queen. Ripley encounters this towering matriarch of the xenomorph brood during the escape from Hadley's Hope, which is the colony on LV-426. And their showdown aboard the USS Sulaco makes for one of the franchise's most iconic moments. Get away from her, you bitch! Cool. Naturally, the Queen is supposed to be much larger than the other xenomorphs, meaning that when it came to building a full-sized animatronic for the alien shoot, Cameron and special effects legend Stan Winston had their work cut out for them. The first step, a proof of concept for the design, seems a little rough around the edges than the finished project. Around the edges than the finished product. Oh, God! I'll learn to read one day. In 2021, the Stan Winston School posted behind-the-scenes footage of Cameron and Winston's garbage bag test, which utilised a puppet made of garbage bags, foam core, and ski poles. If you've watched the making of that's on the box set of the Alien whatever box set, quadrilogy, you can see it in there. It's probably on YouTube. Cameron's contribution to the Xenomorph Queen didn't end with the director's chair either. He also provided the screeching, breathing and various other noises featured in the final film, using nothing but a microphone and his own voice. This is nothing new for Cameron, who has made off-screen appearances in a number of his own movies, including The Abyss, True Lies, Titanic and Avatar. Egg morphine. There's eggs and stuff. One of the most famous deleted scenes of the original Alien sees Ripley come across the Xenomorph's nest during her escape from Nostromo. Here she finds Captain Dallas and Brett, Harry Dean Stanton. Dallas is barely alive, and poor old Brett has been partially subsumed into one of the alien's eggs, so Ripley uses her flamethrower to spare them both a fate worse than death. This all kinds of disturbing scene gained such popularity with fans that later home video releases reinserted it. However, it also threw up a tricky issue for both fans and other franchise creators. Long before it was released to the public, the egg morphing scene was well known to Alien fans, having been mentioned in a number of tie-in books as early as 1979. Then in 1986, Aliens revealed that xenomorph eggs are actually created by a queen. So what does the contradiction between these forms of reproduction mean? Could the two methods possibly coexist in the Alien universe? And what's the point of a queen if any random xeno can produce its own eggs? Esoteric as they may be, these questions have dogged the franchise's fan community for many years. But maybe just the queen could just produce lots of eggs. Maybe, like I said before, because it was the first film, maybe like a standard xenomorph warrior, whatever, can maybe, just do it once, just do a limited amount. But that's just, I don't know. Later films in the series didn't fuss much with providing the answers. The 1992 novelisation of Alien 3 claimed that xenomorphs are capable of both methods of reproduction, depending on individual circumstances, while also suggesting that egg morphing might actually be a method of producing a queen. Alien, the role-playing game, attempted to reconcile these differences by stating that a queen's eggs are stronger and quicker to produce. As with so many problems like this, it's probably easiest to say that the solution is whatever you want it to be, or life finds a way. That's what you could say, couldn't you? And there's The Deacon from Prometheus, a film which I actually quite liked, even though it was stupid, but I did quite enjoy it. But I didn't like Covenant, I hated that. Anyway, the xenomorph from Alien might be what you would call a classic version of the creature, but the franchise has concocted a wide array of variants over the years. Some of these are almost as recognisable as the original, such as the Warriors and the Queen from Aliens, while others, such as the Deacon in Prometheus or the Praetomorph in Alien Covenant, rank as more obscure. Of course, a few are just downright naff. Case in point, the awful CGI dog xenomorphs in Alien 3. They weren't CGI, I don't think. They were puppets, on rod puppets, like rotoscoped and stuff. I think there were a couple of shots maybe that were CG. I think where it explodes, I think that was a CG one. But I think mostly it was a rod puppet that they used. Anyway, and whatever the hell appeared at the end of Alien Resurrection, the baby one, I like that. I like Alien Resurrection. People give it a bad time, but I quite enjoy it. It's fun. Dig deeper into the world of Alien, you'll find yet more twists on the classic xenomorph formula. Many of these are born out of a specific host, such as the Predaliens of the Alien vs Predator mini-franchise and the Tarkatan xenomorph, a playable fighter in the 2015 video game Mortal Kombat X. Or was it 10? I don't know. At the same time, Alien vs Predator 2 mentions a xenomorph empress, while other video game releases have included yellow and red versions of the alien. Perhaps the strangest version of all is the Bodyburster, which features in the 1997 comic book series Aliens Kidnapped. Otherwise known as an axolotl xenomorph, this bizarre mutant is a fully grown chestburster that never matured past the larval stage. Think of it like the caterpillar from Alice in Wonderland, if Alice was having the literal worst day of her life. Got some toys somewhere, I think they're upstairs. They were Aiden's, my son's, originally, but he didn't want them, so I've claimed them. He told me to throw them away, but I thought I'm not doing. We've got these model aliens from a toy shop in town. And one of them's, I think it's called a bull alien, and it looks like a bull. It's like an alien, like a xenomorph, but it's got horns and stuff. And there's another that's like a gorilla alien. Anyway, because they're supposed to take on characteristics of the creature that they are born from, aren't they? So, which is why in Alien 3, why did it look like a dog when it was supposed to have come, in the work print, it came out of a cow, didn't it? But then they changed it, didn't they? In the theatrical version, it comes out of a dog, doesn't it? A Doberman. Not a Doberman. Rottweiler. That was Rottweiler, doesn't it? Anyway, Alien 2 on Earth. What's this? Aliens may be widely regarded as both the perfect successor to Alien and one of the greatest sequels of all time. But someone actually beat James Cameron to the punch 6 years prior to its release. I'm going to say I bet it's an Italian film. In 1980, Italian director, they do that a lot. That Ciro Ippolito, apologies, released Alien 2 on Earth, a low-budget and entirely unauthorised sequel to Ridley Scott's original movie. On Earth is weird in many ways. For one thing, it inexplicably unfolds in the 1980s, despite the plot revolving around an alien egg from the Nostromo that ends up on Earth. They didn't care in them days. The Italian filmmakers, they just made anything. The egg itself, essentially a blue rock, also looks nothing like the ovomorphs, that's a good word, found aboard the derelict. The most egregious difference from Scott's version, the alien itself, the antagonist of Alien 2 on Earth, is a deadly extraterrestrial that gestates inside the body of an unsuspecting human host. But the resemblance ends there. Rather than emerging from the host's chest cavity, this alien bursts out of the face. And the creature it grows into is a slimy, blood-soaked blob that is about as far from H.R. Giger's design as you could possibly get. It also possesses the ability to shapeshift and assimilate other beings, making it more like the alien from The Thing than anything else. Although considering that movie came out in 1982, it seems probable that Ippolito drew inspiration from Who Goes There, the 1938 John W. Campbell novella on which it was based. Unsurprisingly, Alien 2 on Earth and its drastic reshaping of the xenomorph was not exactly a runaway success, and the arrival of aliens annihilated what little impact it made on the sci-fi canon. I've never heard of it. Xenomorph kills the Marvel Universe. And there we go. No, not who, Kitty, what? No! There we go, it's an alien, I don't know. The Xenomorph, is that supposed to be Kitty Pryde from the X-Men? I bet it is, isn't it? The Xenomorph is most famous as a movie monster, but it has been almost as prolific in comic book history. The Aliens vs. Predator franchise is probably the best indication of this, beginning with the 1989 comic Dark Horse Presents Volume 1, number 34. The Xenomorph Yautja, that's the Predator. I said it had a Y in it. Matchup has proved to be a recipe for success for comic book writers, video game designers, and filmmakers alike. In fact, the original Alien vs. Predator comic book line spanned 30 years and countless stories. That's not the end of the Xenomorph's role in the comic book world either. For example, the 1997 two-issue title Batman/Aliens sees the Dark Knight taking on a hive of Xenomorphs in the Guatemalan jungle. 1995 Superman vs. Aliens, meanwhile, has the Man of Steel embark on an adventure into deep space, only to come face to face with an alien infestation on a distant remnant of Krypton. I always wonder when Superman goes into space, he goes to the planets, he'll not be Superman anymore, will he? Because he only gets his superpowers by being on Earth and the light from our yellow sun. But if he goes to somewhere else that doesn't have a yellow sun, will he be just like weak and feeble? Probably, I don't know, I'm not an expert. Even Marvel attempted to recreate the success of Alien long before the Dark Horse DC crossovers began. 1980's Uncanny X-Men Volume 1, number 143 follows Kitty Pryde as she's stalked through the X-Mansion by a Nagarai, a gigantic demon that takes more than a few cues from the Xenomorph's design. A little bit, I suppose. In 2020, Marvel Comics purchased the rights to the Alien and Predator comic franchises, and while the company began a run of Alien comics a year later, times have changed since 1980, so don't expect to see the Hulk battle a Xeno Queen anytime soon. Still, it's a testament to the Xenomorph's enduring legacy that its design was inspiring new stories just a year after release of Alien, and has continued to do so for over 4 decades. The Wasp of Death, and there's the facehugger on John Hurt. Right. You might think that the Xenomorph's life cycle is too far-fetched and gruesome, even for reality, but you'd be horribly, horribly wrong. Indeed, when it comes to the stuff of nightmares, Mother Nature has very much still got it. In 2018, scientists in Australia, where else, found a new species of parasitic wasp that eats its victims from the inside. Here's how it works. The adult wasp injects its eggs into living caterpillars. Over time, the eggs hatch into larvae, which eat away at the insides of the caterpillar before breaking out of its body, growing into adult form, and carrying on the hunt for more hosts. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? The wasp cycle is so similar to that of the xenomorph, in fact, that the researchers who discovered it paid tribute to its name, Dilocogenidia xenomorph. This isn't entirely a case of life imitating art, however. Dilocogenidia xenomorph, I'm saying that wrong, was the latest in a group of insects known as parasitoids, which kill their hosts to complete their life cycles. The term was coined back in 1913, meaning it's almost certain that these insects inspired Dan O'Bannon's screenplay. It's certainly no coincidence that the book Natural Enemies: An Introduction to Biological Control states that the movie's script could have been written by a parasitoid biologist. Angels and demons. Are we nearly done? Bloody hell, it's going on a long time, is it? Let me scroll down again. Oh, that's it. It's the last one. Thank God for that. I thought we were going on forever. And there's one of the engineers. Terrible. From the moment that the first chest burster emerges from Kane's John Hurt's chest in Alien, the purpose of every single xenomorph has been unwavering. Kill, kill, kill. As the android Ash, Ian Holm, tells Ripley, it's the ultimate murder machine, unclouded by conscience, remorse, or delusions of morality. But why do xenomorphs kill in the first place? What drives their hatred for humans? He said, didn't he, did Ash? He said its beauty is only exceeded by its aggression, or something along those lines, didn't it? For years it seemed that the answer was nothing more than simple animalistic bloodlust, but a throwaway line in the 2012 prequel Prometheus turned all that upside down. As Elizabeth Shaw, Noomi Rapace, or is it Rapace? I don't know, I've heard it pronounced both ways. Charlie Holloway, Logan Marshall Green, and the crew of the Prometheus explore the ruins of the ancient base on LV-223. They find the decapitated corpse of an engineer. Shaw uses her carbon reader to determine the date of the engineer's death, 2,000 years ago, give or take. So what happened about 2 millennia prior to the events of the movie, which takes place in 2089? Not far off now, is it? Yet it seems unlikely that this time frame is a coincidence. Prometheus appears to be telling us that the engineers were preparing to bring their bioweapon stockpiles to Earth around the time of the death of Jesus Christ. This would account for the about face and the engineers' motives, and explain, in Shaw's own words, what we did wrong. It stands to reason, then, that mankind's creators intended to use the xenomorph to wipe out life on Earth as punishment for the crucifixion of Jesus, who could well have been an engineer himself. You could even argue that rather than mindless insectoids, the engineers are massive, how they hoist him up onto a crucifix. You could even argue that rather than mindless insectoids or savage hunter-killers, xenomorphs are the closest thing the universe has to actual living demons. Sweet dreams. But then Covenant went and just tore all that up then, didn't it? And just said, oh, it was Michael that invented the xenomorphs. Oh, God, I hate that film. So there you go. So that went on a while, didn't it? That was longer than expected. I was expecting like quick fire facts. But no, but they were interesting nonetheless. Right, one last article and then I can bugger off. Dear. Right, back to the Mail Online. Here we go. This is actual news. This stuff is real. Sci-fi author details how he saw an enormous silver V-shaped UFO. Oh, for God's sake. I'm allowing ads. Go away. Oh, pardon me. That's it. Go on. Go. It's going to come up again now, isn't it? Even though I'm allowing ads on this this site. I've got an ad blocker in, but, you know, I pause it on... There we go. There, it paused. Right, anyway, this stuff is real. Sci-fi author details how he saw an enormous silver V-shaped UFO at age 14 as his unsurprised military father gave him a knowing wink. Dan Harari, 66, saw a UFO hovering above his New Jersey neighbourhood in 1970. He told DailyMail.com that his father, Jack, acted as though he had seen one before. Harari, I'm going to continue, I don't know if that's right, I don't know, has said that the experience has inspired his new novel, After They Came. There we go. So it's inspired him to become a writer, which is very good. It was an ordinary afternoon in 1970 when a 14-year-old, Dan Harari, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, looked through the windshield of his father's car and saw a V-shaped UFO hovering above his New Jersey neighbourhood in broad daylight. The Hollywood publicist turned sci-fi writer never forgot the incredible moment, but it wasn't until decades later that he became convinced his military dad, Jack, knew more about the flying saucer than he had let on. Well, where are you going? Harari's father worked as an electronics engineer with the US Army from 1951 to 1996 and never discussed his top-secret projects. It was not until Jack died in 2017 that his son remembered that he had given him a knowing wink after their UFO sighting. I thought, oh my God, I wonder if my dad knew what that was, Harari 66 told DailyMail.com. The author's growing conviction that his father knew about UFOs during his 45 years in the military inspired his new alien novel, After They Came, which tells the story of a man who is beamed up by extraterrestrials after trying to drown himself on his 70th birthday. I presume that's Dan Harari. Is that him with his dad in the olden days? Harari was born and raised outside Asbury Park, New Jersey, where he developed a passion for rock music, not aliens. The existence of extraterrestrial life didn't really cross his mind until his first UFO sighting as a teen. He recalled how his father had been driving him home from Hebrew school around 4:30 p.m. when he spotted something flying in the air. He yelled for his dad to pull over. When they got out of the car, they saw an enormous silver V-shaped UFO. It was maybe 200 feet in the air, completely silent, and it was just hovering. It just went very, very slowly over my neighbourhood, and I could not believe what I was seeing, he said. So I was jumping up and down. Dad, a UFO! Dad, a UFO! It's so cool. My father looked at it like he was thinking about what he had to buy at the grocery store the next day. He had no interest. Just the look on my father's face was like he'd seen it 100 times already. Maybe it wasn't a UFO. Maybe it was something else. I don't know. Before they left, his father looked at him and gave him a wink, something he had never done before. When they got home, Harari called his local newspaper and was told they were getting a lot of phone calls about this sight, but nothing was ever published. It's the first I've heard of this. It sounds like a major sighting, doesn't it? But it's the first I've heard of it. The writer had asked his father about what he thought about aliens and UFOs 3 or 4 times over the years, but his reaction was always the same. He would simply chuckle and say, well, I don't know. And there's another family photo. Oh, that Dan, looks like he's a drummer. There we go. He likes Mott the Hoople. All the young dudes and all that. How about that Mott the Hoople? I think it was, wasn't it? There we go. Anyway, he noted that his father's goal in life was to get his pension and would never risk losing it by sharing top-secret information with anyone, even his family. Harari said he had a second UFO sighting while visiting his 2 children at his ex-wife's house in Lancaster, California in 1994. After tucking his kids into bed, he went outside and saw a white light shaped like an egg. I tell you, I'll learn to read one of these days. It's easier writing books than reading them, I'm telling you. That travelled from one end of the sky to the other and suddenly stopped. It then reversed its course and returned to its original point of origin. Nothing man-made can do that, he thought to himself. However, Harari didn't start researching UFOs and extraterrestrial life until he wandered into the paranormal section of a Los Angeles bookstore in 2007. I wonder if what's his bloody name now? In The Howling. Oh God, I forgot his name. Well, they're all the paranormal books. That one. Oh. I forgot the name of the actor now. I'm sure it's Miller, something Miller with a H. I can't remember. After buying and reading about a dozen books on the topic, he became a believer and joined the Los Angeles chapter of the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON. an international organisation that investigates reported UFO sightings. The things I heard and saw absolutely blew my mind, he said. I could not believe all the history, all the evidence, all the testimony of so many people that have experienced things that I was never aware of. It just completely changed my worldview. In 2008, Hariri saw his third UFO. Tell you, he's lucky, isn't he? While spending a long weekend at Gilliland's Ranch, an alleged UFO hotspot in Trout Lake, Washington. Oh, there's Steven Spielberg, look. Obviously did Close Encounters and the series Taken. Oh, that's, speaking of the Howling, that's Dee Wallace, isn't it? I do believe. There we go. Oh, I should put an E.T., won't you? But speaking of the Howling. As I did earlier, James Gilliland, founder of the Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence, ECETI, owns the property and has been hosting stargazing events since 1986. At night, we could go out into the field just at the base of Mount Adams. People would sing and dance, play guitars and tambourines and dance around, Hariri recalled. We did that for 3 nights in a row, hoping to summon up a UFO. That was the goal. I kept thinking, if a UFO is going to appear, it's going to appear. It doesn't matter if you sing and dance or anything. Although, I have said, when I've been out looking at the stars, I've sometimes thought, come on, show me something. And then sort of like, as I've thought that, I sometimes even whisper it out loud. I say, come on, show me something. A meteor, I'll just go, boom, streak across the sky. That's happened more than once. Anyway, coincidence, probably. Anyway, I kept thinking, no way while I'm here that something is going to happen. There's no chance. First night, nothing. Second night, nothing. The third night, the last night we were there, people are singing and chanting, and then suddenly out of nowhere, a bright green emerald-shaped craft appeared right above us. Hariri said that the light flashed on and off a few times before it sped off. They all looked at each other with amazement, and he started to cry. Big girl. Sorry. Of the 3 UFOs he has seen, he noted that no 2 were even close to the same. After his father's death, he asked his mother if he had ever mentioned UFOs or aliens. She told him that the first week he worked at Fort Monmouth, a former army installation in Monmouth County, New Jersey, he was taken down into the vaults and shown something remarkable. He came home and said, I saw something that I can never tell you about. My mother said he looked pale and he was scared shitless. He explained. He never discussed it with anyone. She even said he was never the same. We'll never know what he saw. So it could mean anything. It could have been anything. Scroll down. More images. UFOs being in the news. UFOs are in the news quite a lot these days. My interest in this subject, it wanes. It swells and ebbs and stuff. And at the moment, I'm in a bit of an ebb. I used to do a news. If you follow my channel, I used to do a Saturday UFO news roundup. But then I kind of got fed up of seeing the same things over and over again, week after week. Lights in the sky, Starlink trails, stuff like that. I got fed up of seeing. Fakes, a lot of fakes. Too good to be true. Videos and stuff. Anyway. UFOs, or unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, as the US government now calls them, have long been the subject of fascination and scepticism. However, Hariri is convinced that if people took the time to research UFOs and aliens, they would become believers too. He rattled off ancient cave paintings, the Nazca Lines in Peru, the Egyptian pyramids, and the deathbed confessions of military men who allegedly helped cover up the Roswell UFO crash as evidence that extraterrestrials exist. UFOs have been making headlines in recent weeks after 3 were shot down over the US and Canadian airspace in 3 days. There were balloons. A week prior, a Chinese spy balloon was shot down over South Carolina. There were balloons. I think one of them's been identified as, an innocent, balloon, just a weather balloon or whatever. Anyway, the 3 other objects have never been identified. They've not been recovered. Could have probably shot over the sea or, inaccessible land. Canada's a big place. They haven't even been shown on television, Hariri noted, saying the focus has been on the Chinese balloon because the other 3 were not man-made. They were. Still to this day, they don't want to reveal it to the public, he said, of the government's alleged knowledge of extraterrestrial life. They think there will be a panic, that's the thing. Harari knows that some people think he's a lunatic, including his own doctor, who asked if he was going to wear a tinfoil hat as a costume while promoting his book at Alien Con, which took place in Pasadena, California this month. You get that a lot. I'm sceptical, but, I'm not cynical. Show me the good evidence and I'll accept it, and I'll get excited about it, but, it's got to be good. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And anyway, I'm trying to tell my friends and relatives, hey, this stuff is real, and when the day comes when it's proven, don't be too surprised, because it's all absolutely real, he said. And my mother goes, enough with the aliens, and that's it. Yes, that's it, right. So good luck to him. I hope his book does well. I think there's an image of the book somewhere. That's him with the book at a Barnes and Nobles. There he's with Dee Wallace. There he's with Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg, who ripped off Mercury Rapids, in my opinion, actually sent a copy of the book to Steven Spielberg's officers when they first published it way back, 1999 or something. Published the first part of it, and sent him a copy. Never got a reply or anything. And then, about a year or two later, Taken came out. So read into that what you will. Who's that? It's Mel Brooks and other people. So there we go. There's the book cover. After They Came by Dan Harari. I don't know how to pronounce it. A delightful tale of wonder and hope, says Nick Pope. But there we go. So good luck to him. But if you want to read a book about UFOs and that's exciting and action-packed, have a look at that. Have a look at that. Let's read a page at random. Here we go. I materialised inside a perfectly white room. I was standing a couple of yards from the breakdown man, and by the look on his face, I thought he was going to do just that, break down. Glancing down, I saw that my internal organs were still internal, and breathed a sigh of relief. Anyway, so there we go. That's a little example, couple of lines from my book. Right, we'll leave it there. That's it. That was the last story. The next tab is that. So we're at the end, so we'll leave it there. That was a marathon session, wasn't it? For me, anyway. Right, so interesting stories. Thanks for watching. Wherever you are in the universe, look after each other, and until next time, I'll see thee.